welcome back, all of you. You are listening to Midnight Disclosure, where we float together into mysteries, secrets, and stories the world is not meant to know. Tonight, we plot our course into the Nevada desert, to a place surrounded by silence and rumor. Area 51. Even the name sends hearts aflutter and minds reeling. Is it a proving ground for secret planes, a repository for extraterrestrial tech, or the last resting place for travelers from beyond our stars? That's the question we take with us tonight. As you recline, allow your body to relax and your mind to move slowly. Envision yourself under the starry desert sky. The air is motionless, the earth is quiet, but somewhere in the distance, behind barbed fences and vigilant eyes, secrets slumber in the blackness. Secrets too bizarre to ignore, secrets too amazing to overlook. And as always, if you think the truth is worth uncovering, be sure to like this video, subscribe to Midnight Disclosure, and tell us your theories in the comments below. What do you think is hiding in Area 51? Alien technology, alien corpses, something more bizarre? We want to know now. Close your eyes if you prefer. Let your breathing become heavier, and come with me as we walk into America's most celebrated no-go area, Groom Lake. Nevada on the map appears to be little more than a faint scar across the desert. Arid, barren, quiet, an area where the wind howls over endless wasteland and the sun pounds relentlessly. But in reality, this desert is far from barren. Area 51's Groom Lake is situated at the center of Area 51. It is an area that's ringed by fences and guarded by armed personnel, and that's blocked off to the sky overhead by restricted airspace. The ground itself appears designed for concealment. Mountains rise like walls of nature, keeping intruders from an unobstructed view of the basin. The few ridges that once provided curious spectators a glimpse were finally brought under military authority, shutting the last windows to the outside world. And then there is Groom Lake itself, a dry lake bed, lying flat for miles. Its pale clay surface so smooth, it became a natural runway of perfection. To the military, this made it priceless. To those who fantasize about extraterrestrial visitors, it made something else possible, a landing strip for the unthinkable. Imagine a disk, quiet and aglow, descending through the desert darkness. No wings, no engines, simply a gentle fall, as if gravity had been defied. Groom Lake might conceal it, hide it, shield it. Above, there is only a dry basin visible to satellites. From the ground, nobody gets close enough to observe. In the air, intruders are warned off or eliminated. All about this site screams concealment. This is the first of the reasons why Area 51 is so entwined with alien gossip. It is the ideal hideout. Formally, the history of Area 51 begins in the 1950s, when the CIA chose Groom Lake to test its most clandestine aircraft. The U-2 spy plane first took to the air here, flying higher than anything on Earth. Next were the A-12 Oxcart, a black arrow of sleek design constructed to fly faster than missiles. Over time, the F-117 Nighthawk stealth fighter would emerge here as well. Its triangular, jagged design, so otherworldly that those who caught a glimpse of it thought they were seeing something from another planet. These programs were long denied. The base was long denied. It wasn't until 2013 that the US government finally confessed what so many already understood. Area 51 existed, but by then, its legend was already in the air. If spy planes were being concealed for decades, what else could be concealed there? If such advanced aircraft appeared extraterrestrial at first glance, what if something actually extraterrestrial? For some, the history of secrecy itself was evidence enough. If aliens had ever visited Earth, they would be imprisoned in Area 51. There secrecy and rumor meet. The military must have secrecy to safeguard its technology. Believers consider secrecy absolute evidence of something greater. The hangars at Groom Lake run long enough to engulf entire airliners. Some are reputed to be built into the sides of mountains, their doors camouflaged to blend with the rock. Speculation hints at underground tunnels, miles long, connecting secret vaults and laboratories far beneath the desert surface. Workers do not fly in. They are flown in on unmarked flights from Las Vegas. Their work is compartmentalized. Each individual only sees the piece that they are doing, never the entire thing. Even thousands of workers might work alongside each other without ever knowing what exactly they are working on. And so in such a location, extraterrestrial technology might be concealed in plain sight, guarded by silence, hidden in layers of secrecy, and never divulged to the world beyond. Thus far, we have strolled on the perimeter of Area 51, where silence nourishes suspicion and where secrecy spawns legend. But this is not the end of the story. Awaiting us in the future is one of the most contentious testimonies in recent history. A guy who not only said he'd worked within Area 51, but touched something extraterrestrial with his own hands. His name was Bob Lazar, and his testimony altered everything. In the late 1980s, a man on TV was identified as Dennis. His face was obscured, his voice altered. But before long, his true identity emerged. Bob Lazar. Lazar stated that he had worked not at Area 51 proper, but at a nearby base called S4, a clandestine installation cut into the side of an arid ridge near Papoose Lake. His tale was incredible. Lazar reported that within S4 were 9 vehicles, not of this world. Sleek metallic discs housed in hangars that fit perfectly into the desert rock. And each vehicle, he explained, held secrets of its own. Some were in working order, others damaged, as if they had been salvaged from crashes or dug out of buried sites. Lazar said he was tasked to assist in understanding their propulsion system. What he outlined was completely alien to science. A reactor fueled by an unknown material, which he referred to as Element 115, producing a gravitational field that enabled the craft to warp space and travel impossible distances. To some, Lazar was a whistleblower, disclosing the ultimate secret of all, that the US government had alien technology. To others, he was an imposter, spinning a fantasy. But whichever you think, his words rewrote the Area 51 mythos forever. Picture what Lazar said. You go through a hangar door, and before you lies quietly a craft in the form of a sleek silver disc. It reflects dimly under the hangar lights. It has no rivets, no seams, no engines, only one piece of impossible material. The air is thick with quiet, the sort of quiet in which your own footsteps reverberate. Guards lurk in shadows. Scientists bend over papers and schematics, trying to comprehend that which cannot be reverse-engineered. And then the impossible hum starts. A reactor the size of a basketball vibrates with power. Invisible, inescapable, but with the capability to generate a gravity wave, a ripple in the fabric of space itself. Lazar described it calmly, clinically, as though explaining any other piece of machinery. Yet, the implications were staggering. If true, it meant these craft were not experimental planes, not black projects born of human minds, but visitors from beyond the stars. Lazar's testimony came at a cost. He was ridiculed, discredited, and pursued. Skeptics pointed out holes in his background, missing records, questionable details. The government denied everything, but suspicious silence can be, too. Erasure of files can conceal as much as it reveals. And all the while, Lazar never flinched from his assertion that he saw, handled, and worked alongside extraterrestrial vehicles. To this day, his tale polarizes the faithful and the doubters. Was he a prodigy who was given a glimpse of the exceptional, or an individual spinning fiction from darkness? At Midnight Disclosure, we challenge you to question. If you give credence to Bob Lazar, then the extraterrestrial link at Area 51 is more than hearsay. It is witness testimony, a tale told not in hushed tones, but on tape, seen by millions. And yet, as sensational as Lazar's story was, it is not the sole cause of Area 51's mystique. Other testifiers, voiceless accounts, and inexplicable occurrences all point to this desert location. But first, ask yourself, do you think, was Bob Lazar the bearer of a secret truth, or merely another myth-maker fueling the flames? Leave your opinion in the comments, for your own view is part of this enigma. When Lazar's assertions caused global interest, residents in Nevada had been telling tales for years of mysterious light streaking across the evening horizon. People spoke of spheres traveling too fast, without inertia, altering direction, radiating quietly above desert ridges. There were those who insisted that these were experimental flights of secret planes. Some assuredly said they were extraterrestrial vehicles, experimented upon under darkness of midnight. Imagine you are on a ridge beyond the off-limits area. The desert night is crisp, the stars shine brightly above, and then, suddenly, there is a light. It travels quicker than a jet aircraft, then brackets to a stop. It lingers, it whirls, and then disappears into thin air. What did you witness? A top-secret test, or evidence that something from another world has discovered a haven in Nevada's quiet? At Midnight Disclosure, we remind you, sometimes it's not the sighting that distinguishes between aircraft and alien craft, but the secrecy. Back at S4, Lazar painted a picture of security, tighter than fantasy. Armed guards, badges tracing every move, retinal scans that confirmed identity. Workers restricted to narrow corridors, given glimpses only of a much larger picture. Within this maze of secrecy, he saw documents suggesting the craft recovered were ancient, not fresh crashes, but relics, perhaps taken from archaeological excavations, their beginnings predating modern history. If so, that would mean not only travelers from the stars, but travelers here long before us. A prospect that adds depth to the mystery and connects Area 51 not only to the immediate now, but to human history as a whole. The desert, dark and infinite, might be concealing not just Cold War secrets, but secrets of creation. And as we glide further into darkness, the closer we get to the core of the myth, alien corpses, secret vaults, and the accounts of those who claim to have witnessed what the world was never supposed to see. Area 51 stories never seem to end with conversation of planes alone. For most, the most chilling rumors are not about machines, but about creatures. The notion that behind closed doors and vaulted walls rest the bones of creatures other than of Earth. For many years, individuals have talked of recovered alien bodies from crash sites. Others refer to Roswell, New Mexico in 1947, when the military originally stated a flying disc had been recovered, and then just as quickly denied it and said it was a weather balloon. But there are others who say the first story was not a fabrication. They think wreckage was removed, and that bodies of bizarre creatures were discovered along with it. Where would that evidence go? Not to a normal base, not to an open laboratory, but to some place built for silence, to the Nevada desert, to Area 51. Witnesses have emerged, usually anonymously, reporting that they witnessed preserved remains, tiny figures, thin, with prominent heads and dark-colored eyes. Some described refrigeration units, buried out of sight. Others described autopsies performed far from the public view, where only the highest clearance permitted access. Skeptics relegate these stories to fantasy, the result of rumor and fear. But in the quiet of desert darkness, when the imagination wanders, the question remains, what if it was true? What if Nevada's best-kept secret is not the craft itself, but the creatures who once flew it? Imagine the scene. A sterile room, white light blinding against cold metal tables. Masked and gloved doctors, silent, efficient. Before them, a body unlike any human, motionless on a table. Instruments note every detail. Notes are made, and beyond those walls, the world continues, none the wiser. Even the rumors are heavy. If so many mouths have whispered them for so many decades, if so many versions converge in such peculiar ways, then perhaps there is some truth at the center which can't be ignored. Perhaps it is not about a single corpse or a solitary crash, but about a habit of cover-up, a culture of keeping hidden what can't be made to add up. For the military, secrecy has ever been survival. For the faithful, secrecy has ever been proof. And here, between Area 51's fences and the silence of the sworn, the tales will not go away. Imagine the desert night, the pale lake bed in the moonlight, the hangars clamped shut, and at the very center, something delicate, kept in reserve, waiting for a truth that will perhaps never arrive. At Midnight Disclosure, we float with these questions, not to resolve them with certainty, but to maintain the magic alive. Because in mysteries such as these, perhaps certainty never arrives. But the questions themselves, the potentiality, is what keeps the dream alive. And so rumors of alien bodies persist, on desert winds that never stop, never end. A secret perhaps more chilling in its potential than in its reality. Before us, then, is another level of the mystery, not bodies or aircraft, but the anomalous energies, the weird materials, and the technology that cannot be explained. For others, the true mystery of Area 51 is not what is recovered, but what is created from it. Reverse engineering. The effort to translate alien into human, to convert mystery into power. If extraterrestrial vehicles had, in fact, been recovered, the follow-up question was inevitable. What might be discovered from them? Might the key to their power be discovered? Might humanity, in examining what was concealed in Nevada, be able to take a step into the cosmos? This is where reverse engineering comes into the picture. Bob Lazar talked a lot about his work not as invention, but replication, trying to replicate technology way beyond human understanding. He wrote about a reactor, compact and small, run by a substance then unknown to science. He referred to it as Element 115. No such element on the periodic table existed during his claims. Skeptics pounced on this and said his tale fell apart because of its own impossibility. But years later, scientists would actually create an element with the same numerical number, 115. It was unstable, existing only for fractions of a second. And yet, again, the coincidence breathed new life into Lazar's assertions. Perhaps, one mused, the unstable form we created was merely a shadow of what really exists. Might there exist a stable isotope of element 115 that can fuel the machine's bending gravity itself? Picture it, a disk, floating serenely, not by rocket or jet engines, but by warping gravity itself. A device that could form a bubble about it, warping space, curving distance, so it might journey through unimagined expanses of the cosmos. A ship that could disappear not through velocity, but by merely stepping across the warp of existence. The mere idea is mind-boggling, and yet, in the quiet of Area 51, in those hangars and tunnels talked about for generations, perhaps such machines have already thrummed with energy. Perhaps already tests have been conducted, quiet flights over desert darkness, vehicles that glide past radar as effortlessly as light passes through glass. For the scientists purported to be working on it. The challenge was enormous. Minds of men faced with logic of the non-human, substances that refuse to bend, weld, or break like anything on the planet Earth. Systems that ran as if crafted not by our hands, but for some other purpose altogether. It was not a matter of learning about a foreign contraption, it was learning about a dream solidified, and still, secrecy commanded results. For if this power could be unlocked, it would redefine the future of technology, war, and exploration. It would give its possessor an edge beyond imagination. It is this thirst for power that believers maintain drove the tireless efforts within Area 51. But the quest for such secrets was expensive. Rumors of mishaps, of blasts, of scientists disappearing without trace, ripple through the rumors. Those who would speak out had to face careers lost, reputations destroyed, even danger, and all the while, the desert wind bore the whispers of silence. Reverse engineering extraterrestrial. Technology is a notion both wonderful and chilling. If it is true, then mankind already has reached the future, seen technology, which can liberate us from the confines of Earth. But then it also implies that knowledge, instead of being shared with the world, has been sealed away, buried beneath the banner of national security. At midnight disclosure, we have to wonder, what future are we deprived of, if gravity's secrets, energy's secrets, and propulsion's secrets are locked in vaults, out of the world's sight? The concept of element 115, of reactors warping gravity, of craft floating against the laws of physics, draws us into enchantment. And yet, for each assertion, there is denial. For each witness, there is silence. For each witness, there is a doubter waiting to dismiss. And yet, the stories remain. And yet the rumors swell. And yet the desert keeps its secrets. Before us is another fragment of the enigma, one that is not merely connected to machines or substances, but to the observers themselves. Men in black uniforms, invisible patrols, unusual encounters with individuals who seem not only to protect the secrets, but to destroy them. And so we move further into the darkness, from craft to control, from machines to the men who seem to materialize whenever the unknown becomes the known. There are guardians for every legend. In the vicinity of Area 51, the secrecy is not merely contained within fences, radars, and padlocked hangars. It is obeyed by individuals, quiet figures, vigilant eyes, unseen visitors who appear to pop up whenever the inexplicable approaches too near to the surface. For decades, witnesses have testified to the men in black, not the flippant caricatures of film, but actual men in black suits or military uniforms who come without warning. They knock at doors, they ask questions, and sometimes they don't ask questions at all. They merely observe. In the vicinity of the Nevada desert, campers near the forbidden area speak of white trucks riding over the ridges, headlights off, engines dead, guards on board with binoculars scanning anyone who would venture near. Local ranchers describe being followed, interrogated, warned, and travelers who have seen unusual lights in the desert heavens have had strangers call on them the following day. Strangers who appeared to know too much. Their presence is unsettling, not violent, not loud, but deeply unnerving. Witnesses describe them as expressionless, cold, almost mechanical in their manner. Their voices flat, their stares unblinking. They ask not only about what was seen, but about what will be said. Imagine it. You wake from a night when you believe you've seen something impossible in the sky. The morning after, a knock resounds at your door. Outside are two men in suits, their car sitting quietly by the side of the road. They recognize your name. They recognize what you believe you've seen, and they inform you, matter-of-factly, that it would be more preferable if you forgot. It is this quiet intimidation that builds the legend. These men are not alien, but they are of the alien mystery. They exist to erase, to silence, to keep secrets no matter what. Some accounts go further. Witnesses testify to experiences that are stranger than human. Men who don't really belong. Their talk a little off, their appearance unnervingly familiar, their movements stiff, as if rehearsed. Were they just government men in disguise? Or something more? Something not quite human, charged with maintaining the secret? The desert is full of such stories. Backpackers report having been observed from ridgelands, always too distant to make out clearly, but close enough to sense the presence of eyes on them. Photographers report cameras taken away, film exposed, memory cards wiped clean. In other stories, even the perception of time appeared different, as if hours passed in the company of these figures. What is so chilling about the men in black is not evidence, but pattern. Tale after tale, decade after decade, In towns, bases, and crash sites, the same faces keep turning up, always lurking in the background, always at the periphery of the inexplicable. If alien craft rests at Area 51, if alien technology hums within its hidden hangars, then the men in black are the guardians of that silence. They are the human face of an inhuman secret. And so, as we sleep deeper into this tale of sleep, we feel the presence of the watchers. Not only the guards in their trucks, not only the radar patrolling the air, but the anonymous enforcers who step into the lives of any who dare get too close. At Midnight Disclosure, we aren't here to respond for sure, but to bring these mysteries into the night. And the mystery of the men in black reminds us that secrecy is not merely passive. It is active, vigilant, and ever alert. But if men patrol the gates, and legends patrol the stories, what of the skies themselves? For although the desert can keep its silence, the sky is more difficult to hold. Unusual lights, impossible flight patterns, and seeing that spans decades still manage to pierce the veil of secrecy. The sky of the desert is huge, limitless, and still. During the day, the heat undulates above the horizon, and at night, the stars appear to multiply, radiating in all directions so that you feel infinitesimal under them. In such a location, any light is seen, and in such a location, mundane reasons usually fail to suffice. Decades ago, people who live around the Nevada test site have reported seeing bizarre lights streaking across the sky. Not aircraft, not satellites. Lights that traveled too quickly, braked too abruptly, or shone too intensely to be dismissed. Tourists on isolated roads speak of spheres emerging from the desert sands and hurtling into the air with impossible velocity. Hikers tell of luminescent discs silently floating above the peaks before disappearing into nothingness. Truckers speak of being paced by radiant lights that followed their rigs for miles, then disappeared at acute angles impossible for any aircraft to maintain. A few of the sightings were made by average citizens, the rest by skilled observers. During the 1990s, a tight little circle of enthusiasts met regularly on ridges beyond the guarded perimeter. Scanning the evening sky with binoculars and cameras, they described things careening back and forth, lights that moved as if in play, craft that seemed to violate the laws of flight. For every explanation proffered experimental plane, flares, tricks of the atmosphere, there were eyewitness accounts that continued to defy explanation. A plane can't fly silently, a flare can't alter course in midair, and no plane, conventional or not, can pop into view and disappear in an eye blink. Picture yourself standing there, draped in a blanket against the cold of the desert. The stars seem to go on forever overhead. Abruptly, a light low on the horizon appears. It travels too smoothly, too purposefully. It lingers, changes direction, then blurs upward and vanishes in the darkness of space. Your breath freezes, your heart accelerates, and you know you have witnessed something that no one will ever be able to persuade you was unexceptional. Even pilots, men and women who have been trained to identify every aircraft in the sky, have made reports. They talk of objects outpacing missiles, disappearing on radar, or flying in trajectories that contradicted everything they had learned about physics and aerodynamics. The military denies, dismisses, or stays quiet, but silence, in itself, is very loud. Each unidentified light weaves another strand into the shroud of intrigue that has developed around Area 51. These observations are not limited to a single decade or a single generation. They span time, from the first Cold War years to the modern day. The desert might protect its secrets, but the sky above it is more difficult to hide. At Midnight Disclosure, we think of these lights not as evidence, but as potential. Evidence is never forthcoming, but potential drives the imagination. Potential keeps the enigma alive as you allow your eyelids to become heavy. Picture those lights again, quiet, unimaginable, moving where nothing would move. Perhaps merely clandestine aircraft flown in secret at night. Perhaps something more, something beyond this world. And although the lights have ever been the object of fascination, others report that the true secrets are not in the heavens above, but rather buried deep beneath the desert floor. Stories of underground bases, secret labs, and whole worlds hidden beneath Groom Lake have abounded for decades. That is where our voyage wanders next, into the secret subterranean, where the most far-fetched rumors of Area 51 remain. And if the heavens above Area 51 are elusive, the earth below can be even more elusive. For decades, rumors have spoken of immense underground bases beneath Groom Lake, miles of tunnels, and hidden labs where the most bizarre activity occurs, away from prying eyes. The official account says nothing but hangars, test facilities, and runways above ground, but the people who used to work in secret, or so they say they did, tell of something much more. They tell of elevators that go deep into the desert floor, of steel doors leading into corridors with no end, of laboratories where bizarre materials are experimented upon, and vaults where things not of this world are stored. Picture going down in such an elevator. The desert sun recedes, the light is extinguished, and steel walls close in around you. The air becomes chilled as you go deeper and deeper down, until the elevator doors finally sigh open. Before you is a corridor extending into quiet, its cold fluorescent lights reflecting off whitewashed walls, guarded by silent men with guns. Down here, they tell you, compartmentalization is complete. Every worker receives only a piece of the truth. One crew analyzes metals that defy every effort to bend or shatter them. Another watches machines that vibrate with powers beyond the reach of science. Others sort through shards, slivers of technology so sophisticated that even their use is inconceivable. And outside the labs, deeper still, are storage vaults. Rooms cooled to keep their contents. Cases glazed. Some have said what lies within is not machinery, but biology. Specimens kept in quiet, bodies that do not correspond to any type of life the planet has known. The tunnels themselves are part of the myth. They allegedly join Area 51 with other facilities in Nevada and elsewhere. Miles of underground passageways that connect secret bases for transportation far from prying eyes. Some say high-speed trams operate within them, carrying workers and materials in utter secrecy. Skeptics write off such stories as fantasy, the inevitable result of Cold War paranoia. But on the stillness of desert night, when the ground below seems as big as the sky above, the possibility stays in the mind. What if secret cities beneath the sand are real? What if we are not barred from the truth by fences and guards, but by miles of earth and stone that hide what lies below? Imagine it now, a huge room excavated from rock, buried deep below ground. In the middle, a vessel rests on a pedestal, its metal cool and glassy, unruffled by the passing of time. Beside it, white-clad scientists walk softly, their tones muted, their gazes upon the unthinkable. Equipment buzzes, devices capture, but the solutions never arrive. And overhead, the desert stretches in a calm, oblivious to the worlds below. At midnight disclosure, we allow these rumors to waft on the imagination, not as facts, but as speculation. The desert is ancient, its silence unbroken since millennia. If there were secrets to hide, this is where they would rest best, in rooms under Groom Lake, cut off from sunlight, protected by silence. And if those subterranean realms exist, then the Area 51 enigma goes beyond hangars and runways. It is much larger. It is a maze of secrets, constructed layer by layer, probing deeper with each whisper, rumor, and unanswered question. And just as the underground places us closer to secrecy, it brings us to one of the most sinister elements of Area 51, the tales of those who have supposedly worked there, and the bizarre, inexplicable events they claim to have seen. That is where we travel next, into witness that blurs the boundary of fact and myth, tales that will not be quieted, and voices that resonate long after they have spoken. The desert can hold its secrets, but humanity, occasionally, cannot. For decades, isolated whispers have surfaced from the dark corners of Area 51. Some said it out loud, providing their names for documentaries and interviews. Others remained in the shadows, face obscured, voice distorted, fearful of what could come next if they told too much. But all of them tell of things that do not exist in the everyday world. One of the security guards recalls being instructed never to go near items covered in tarps in a particular hangar. For weeks, he complied, standing guard as crews came and went, always avoiding the line of sight. But curiosity, even here, has a way of getting through. One evening, when the floor was briefly empty, he moved closer. What he saw, he said, did not make sense. A liquid metal smooth, curved surface, its lights reflected in a manner that seemed alive. He was hurried back inside in mere seconds, reassigned by morning, instructed never again to mention it. A technician had once worked on what he thought was part of a foreign technology evaluation process. The device before him had no cable, no recognizable circuits. Rather, it reacted to touch, glowing with abnormal patterns as his hand hovered close to specific panels. He could not tell what it was or how it worked. In a matter of days, the assignment was switched. His window into the unknown shut as fast as it opened. Contractors, also, have shared their pieces of the tale. One truck driver hauling sealed crates testified the cargo was ever unmarked, impossibly heavy, and was touched only by base personnel. He was never permitted to look inside, but at one point, through a seam in a partition, he was certain he saw a shape under a tarp, a curve too smooth, too continuous to be a fuselage. He drove off that night uneasy, certain he had been near something not of mortal design. And then there are the rumors of biology. One of the former medics alleged he was taken to an off-limits room on a night shift. He saw, under closed guard, a body on a table, small and thin, with a face that looked nearly human, but not quite. He worked in silence, taking down vital signs he didn't comprehend. The third night, the body had disappeared, and the topic was never mentioned again. Of course, the skeptics wave these tales aside as exaggerations, faulty memories, or outright fiction. And maybe some of them are, but hear enough voices, spread out over decades, and something begins to emerge. A pattern of glimpses into something larger, shards of information that when taken together suggest something remarkable. Even the doubters concede that Area 51 has ever been a location where the unusual conceals itself. The U-2 spy aircraft, the A-12 Oxcart, the F-117 Nighthawk, all conceived here. All concealed for years before the globe was aware of them. If secrets such as these could be kept, why not something more unusual? Why not something extraterrestrial? At Midnight Disclosure, we don't say these are testimonies of fact, but we acknowledge their potency. They are the strands that form the legend, the voices that resound with the desert. And if the same echoes are repeated and repeated through the ages and miles, maybe they are saying something that we are not supposed to forget. Close your eyes and visualize the scene. A man in a white lab coat, standing in front of a panel that glows with the touch of his hand. A soldier gazing at a silver curve under a tarp, his heart pounding as he is dragged away. A doctor standing guard over a broken form, not knowing if it is alive, not knowing if it is even human. These are the tales that cling to Area 51, like shadows that refuse to disperse. And just as we are told what could be within the base by voices, the heavens above it show us brief glimpses of what could spill out into the darkness. Bizarre lights, impossible trajectories, and forms which float through the blackness. That is where we move on to next. The night desert is huge and still. Stars shine hard and endless above Groom Lake, and in the stillness, every noise, every flash of light seems to loom large. For decades, Observers have stood at the periphery of Area 51's no-go zone, gazing out at the massive expanse of sky, hoping something out of the ordinary will move above the most locked-down air in America, and some claim to have seen it. Glowing spheres ascending, in silence from the backs of the ridges, floating as though without weight before shooting upward in a straight line and disappearing. Light triangles traveling in impeccable line, their brightness constant, their path to calculated to be coincidence. Metallic forms shining in the dusk, executing impossible turns without any noise. One of the Air Force pilots explained it best. He was on a night training flight when he saw a light pass over the base. It looked like a star at first, until it moved. It hung there, quiet and still, then shot straight up at such velocity it turned to nothing. He went on to say, it might as well have been teleportation. Civilian observers report similar stories. Groups of friends driving on the extraterrestrial highway, ranchers leading cattle near the perimeter, trekkers on Tekaboo Peak. They all describe the same impossible maneuvers. Abrupt halts, vertical ascents, zigzag routes across the desert horizon. Some see craft that appear to suspended motion for several minutes, completely still, defying gravity itself. Not all the lights are explained away as illusions. Some observers are pilots, engineers, or veterans who know the difference between a flare and a craft. They insist what they saw could not have been conventional. No engines, no contrails, no sound, just silent shapes cutting through the darkness with eerie precision. The skeptics also point out that Area 51 has always been a proving ground for the unthinkable. The U-2 spy aircraft, the A-12 Oxcart, and the F-117 stealth fighter all flew in ways the public could not grasp at the time. Maybe the weird lights are merely tomorrow's technology being tested today. Drones, propulsion systems, prototypes, well beyond what we currently comprehend. But then, of course, is the question, why are some movements so much outside of physics as we know it? How does a light sphere jump from rest to scorching velocity without a sonic boom? How do groups materialize in quietness, then disappear instantaneously, as if flicking a switch off? There are some researchers who think that these sightings are intentional, that the base provides a few peeks at the unexplained. Carefully orchestrated leaks intended to obfuscate the distinction between rumor and fact. Others think the reverse, that these sightings are inadvertent errors in an apparatus intended to clear the skies of evidence. For those watching on the ground, it doesn't matter what the intent is. It matters when. The desert silence, the infinite stars, and then something else. A flash, a form, a trajectory no plane can take, and at that moment, the legend becomes real. At Midnight Disclosure, we ask you to close your eyes and stand on that desert road. The night is quiet, the sand cold at your feet. You glance up, and for an instant, you catch sight of it. A silver circle against the stars, a triangle of light slicing the sky, a sphere softly glowing blue as it pauses in front of, disappearing into the distance. Did you glimpse a covert human experiment? Or did you see something not from this world at all? These skies might harbor answers, but they also harbor new questions. And sometimes those questions center on the smallest of details. A peculiar piece of metal, an element rumored about for decades, rumored to be the very essence of alien propulsion. That's where our story takes a turn next. Amidst all the rumors, amidst all the tales of lights, bodies, and tunnels, there is one strand that resurfaces over and over again. The promise of a source of power so unusual, it might rewrite everything we think we know. The center of the enigma, the secret of the art, the factor that could unleash the stars. Bob Lazar referred to it as Element 115. Initially, it was unthinkable, a figment of imagination. But then, years down the line, science proved that it existed, albeit for mere seconds at a time. Our version disintegrates in an instant, too unstable to hold any value. But suppose that the stable isotope Lazar actually exists. Suppose it's in Area 51. Think of the potential of such an element. Not fuel, but a doorway. A reactor, the diameter of a basketball, warping gravity, enveloping the vessel in a warping of space. With it, travel between galaxies would not be merely possible, it would be intuitive. The distances which currently exist between stars would vanish into the void. What would have taken lifetimes could be done in an instant, and if so, has been retrieved. If it lies even now within the mute recesses of Area 51, then mankind has already reached out to the future, already caught a fleeting glimpse of what exists beyond our horizon, already possessed within its palms the fire of the extraordinary. But then there is the haunting question: why, if it exists, has it not been revealed? Why is such power hidden in silence when the world above wrestles with the constraints of energy, distance, and time? Is secrecy intended to safeguard us, or to manipulate us? The desert remains silent. Groom Lake is quiet, its runways vacant under the moonlight, its fences intact. The stars gaze from on high, unmoved, forever, and the secrets, should they exist, remain locked away in steel and stone. Far, far below the sand, maybe the truth will never be revealed. Maybe the Area 51 legend will always exist in rumor, gathering with each passing decade, handed down in every generation. Maybe its greatest strength is not the secrets that it keeps, but the awe that it creates. The power to have us gaze up at the sky and wonder if we are alone. At Midnight Disclosure, we never provide answers. Instead, we provide questions, dreams, and mysteries to bring with you into the darkness of the night. As you move further into sleep, let your thoughts stray. Imagine the hangars, the tunnels, the skies filled with impossible lights. Imagine the element that warps gravity, the craft that floats in quiet, the beings whose eyes might have once fallen across our world. And as your eyelids begin to droop, recall the desert remains quiet. The secrets remain waiting, perhaps patiently waiting for you. Sleep now, then, with Enigma beside you. Let mystery sweep you away into slumber. For tonight's sleep tale is through, but the question lingers: what extraterrestrial secrets lie within Area 51? Good night, from Midnight Disclosure.